Welcome once again to Forecasting with Friends, everybody. We do have a packed show today, and so I just want to get you up to date as to what's happening with weather live right now, and then we have some important updates coming from Allison and from JD. Outside your door, it's still cold, but it's a beautiful day. We got down to the 20s area-wide this morning, and now we're starting to rebound back into the low 40s, and really it's pretty nice all things considered. There's a winter storm watch, though, that's in effect for North Texas that we will talk more about, and that's potential impact really statewide coming up in just a few minutes. For right now, though, you may have noticed the last 2 mornings we had a new advisory that was issued with a new name you may not be familiar with. It's called a cold weather alert. Meteorologist Allison Gargaro explains what that is and some of the different types of precipitation that could be falling across Texas this week.
Hey everyone, I'm Fox 26 Houston meteorologist Allison Gargaro, and I want to talk about some cold weather alerts that we will be experiencing across this winter season. The National Weather Service has come out with some new wording because in years past there have been so many alerts and you feel like you're overhead and you get the alerts, to your phone or from an app, whatever it is, and you're like, there's so many. So the National Weather Service has actually consolidated a lot of these alerts to make it a little bit more streamlined, and then it's up to us meteorologists to kind of let you know the nitty-gritty, exactly what they're thinking, why they're issuing these. So, freeze warning. If you remember in years past, we had freeze warning, freeze watch, hard freeze warning. I mean, there were so many, and to remember the different definitions, it's a lot when you're just trying to prepare your home. So, freeze warning is now a broad brush, where for there to be a freeze warning, we need 32 degrees or less at or below for 2 hours over a widespread area. Now, the thing is, the National Weather Service is only issuing this for the first freeze of the season, which Houston, in December, it didn't quite make its way down to Houston, but it has something that we've been seeing now with this cold snap. But a hard freeze is when temps are at or below 28 degrees, which has not happened in Houston. So that's why we're going to be seeing these wordings maybe a few times, because it really just depends on where in the viewing area you're getting some of these cold temperatures. So that's the update for the freeze warning. Now, the cold weather advisory is also new and updated. It is taking more the approach of the feels like temps. When we talk about freezes, it's for your plants, it's for your pipes, for your pets. You need to bring them in. For the cold weather advisory, which used to be a wind chill advisory, it has to do with how it feels for us. So we need temperatures or wind chill values, which is going to be the temp mixed with just how strong the winds are, to be at or below 25 degrees for Harris County and counties to the south. But for Montgomery County and counties to the north, so if you can just think of the viewing area in a whole, basically Houston and south, we need to have 25 degrees or below. And for basically north of Houston, we need 20 degrees or below, the temperatures and the wind chill. So that's going to be the new wording. Again, it's going to take a little bit for us to get used to, but don't worry. That's what us meteorologists are here for. We want to make sure that you're updated and you know exactly what to do. But as we continue through this winter season, there are going to be these cold times, and you need to make sure that you're preparing. So there's always a possibility that the power goes out, and we want you to be over-prepared. I think that's the #1 most important thing. We'd rather have you be over-prepared and have all these extra blankets to be able to stay warm rather than under-prepared, because if you do get caught in a situation where you don't have power, it's going to be cold. So have those extra blankets. Make sure that you have the extra layers. I mean, we're talking extra warm gear if you have fleece-lined pants, big jacket, boots, thick socks, gloves, scarves, hats. You want all your extremities to be covered. And with the scarf, you can kind of put it over your nose because your nose always gets cold. Check on your elderly neighbors, your elderly family. You would want, if you had an elderly neighbor, you would want your family to do the same if they live next to them, let's say in a different neighborhood. So, please make sure that you're checking on them if they need, at any point, their pipes covered, that you can do so while you're doing yours. That is very important as we head throughout this winter season. Keep supplies like water in your car. Make sure that your car is filled up with gas ahead of time. Again, over prepared. Worst case, you have a full tank of gas. If not, and you need to get somewhere, you will be prepared and potentially not have to wait in the line, or if a gas station loses power, well, then maybe you wouldn't be able to get it. Protect your pipes, your sensitive plants, cover them. If you have a potted plant, bring it in the garage. And your pets, please bring them inside. It is going to be cold and for a long time, so that is very important. Lastly, I want to talk about winter precipitation types, because we know social media has been kind of going crazy with this. Is there going to be snow in Houston? Is there not? What can we expect? Well, right now it looks like chances are on the lower end. We're not at zero, but on the lower end. But I just want to talk about the atmosphere, the profile of what we're seeing. So think you're looking up into the clouds. The clouds are here. Snow is falling. High up in the atmosphere. Now, for snow to fall, we would need the entire atmosphere, all the layers that we talk about, to be at or below freezing. But let's say that's not the case. Okay? Snow is falling. Then in the midsection of the atmosphere, we actually see a bit of melting because it's warm. Temperatures are above freezing. Well, there's enough time for the water droplet to refreeze a bit, not quite into snow. That's how we get hail. Okay, well, that warm layer is much thicker. So it turns into rain, but the thing is, because at the surface we have temperatures that are below freezing, the rain actually freezes on contact. That's how we get ice. Freezing rain is not your friend. It actually is almost confusing because when you see it falling out of the atmosphere, it looks like rain, and then it hits the ground and it immediately freezes. So ice, it would create a glaze. That is a complete disaster for folks who are traveling. Then we have regular rain. Yes, snow is falling in the high elevations of the atmosphere, but there's just so much warmth that the droplet goes through that it loses it, turns into rain, and it's rain all the way to the ground, the surface. So this is when we talk about wintry precipitation. And, you know, I think social media can get maybe carry on a little bit too much with that, but it's so particular, the atmosphere, that, you know, the models really have to get an agreement on what's going to happen. The profile of the atmosphere means so much. So we'll be watching things closely for you. That's what we're here for at Fox 26. We'll continue to bring you the latest updates. Remember to download the free Fox Local app.
All right, welcome back to Forecasting with Friends. I'm meteorologist John Dawson. This is this special extended version of the emergency gear test for this week, where we get to really dive in even more into this product that we're featuring. And I'm really excited because this is a first aid kit, and it's the number 5 item on my top 5 list. If you'll remember, my top list of things that you've got to have when you start gathering emergency supplies are going to be food and water. Those kind of go together. Then you're going to need some sort of a battery-powered light. You're going to need some power of some kind. The minimum that everybody needs is a way to recharge your cell phone when the lights go out. But some of us need even more power options than that. And then the 5th one is a first aid kit. And remember, when I say first aid kit, you would want to include prescription medicine into that. So that's something that you won't find in a pre-built first aid kit like this. You're going to need to make sure and add that to it. But what we have on the table here is from Life Gear. And Life Gear is a company that I've talked about lots of times over the years. They're really good at sending me products, and overall I think it's a good price point as far as the quality, because you know, sometimes when you buy something that's so high quality, it's just not even unclear if it's worth the price because it's something you really don't want to have to use. But then on the opposite side of that, you don't want to buy something that's super cheap, because then when you need to use something and you try to use it, it's just a piece of junk and it doesn't work for you. This is a really, I think Life Gear products are a really good sort of medium spot there, where it's a good enough quality that it'll help you out, but it's also not making you take a loan out of the bank necessarily when you want to buy it. So this is the Life Gear First Aid and Survival tactical pack, and they call it, I guess, the tactical pack because, again, it's sort of military-ish looking. It's got the mollies here on the back where you can attach that to something, or you can attach things to the pack itself. This will, I've got a bunch of junk in here, so forgive me when I open this, but this will open up all the way and unfold. I've pulled out everything that actually goes in the pack and put it out on the table here, but that's going to be something that opens up, it flips open, and you can kind of have access. This is not, I'll start off with one negative, this is not the most organized first aid kit that I've run across, but overall, if you familiarize yourself a little bit with it, you're going to be able to locate everything that you need. And as I said, I just flopped it all out here on the table, and we're going to kind of go through things just a little bit with it overall. So I do think that everything in general terms that you want is in here. One thing I want to remind you, when you're looking at either a survival kit or a first aid kit, whoever's selling it to you, they're normally going to want to boast, and they're going to stick that number of how many pieces or how many items are in this kit. Don't get too focused on those numbers, because they're going to count like every single thing, every Q-tip that's in here, they're going to count that, and every Band-Aid, and companies do that. And so when I tell you that this has 117 pieces, I don't want that to be the most impressive thing that you hear from me today. I want you to know that there are some specific things that I look for when I look at a first aid kit. And that's what I'm going to dive into right now. And I've kind of got them laid out more or less kind of in the front of the table here. First of all, you got to have the Band-Aids. You got to have the bandages. You got to have a whole bunch of different sizes of bandages. You got to have more than you think you need. And this pack certainly has that. You've got also some other sort of, gauze pads and things like that, but have the Band-Aids, have the bandages. I like it when there's tweezers. It always seems like when you need a set of tweezers, you're not going to have one. Scissors are fantastic as well, because the scissors will work for so many other applications besides first aid. So if you've got scissors in your first aid kit, then you've covered yourself for a lot of things. And another thing along the same lines is the medical tape, right? There's sometimes when you might need some tape, not for medical purposes, but the medical tape will help serve some needs for that. That's kind of a little role, but it is in here. And then, of course, examination gloves, vinyl gloves, that's something that could be helpful for multiple things as well, besides just medical reasons, sanitary issues and things like that. This has one set. I would advise maybe having more than one set. But overall, that's kind of, the cold compress. I almost forgot that. I really do look for a cold compress as well, because that's something that I think is very helpful. And this pack does include one of the cold compresses. Now, something new that a lot of kits are starting to put in that this one does include is a tourniquet. A tourniquet, though, is one of those items that probably needs a little bit of education before you start using a tourniquet, making sure that you know how to safely operate one. And there are different kinds of tourniquets. Different tourniquets operate different ways. So if you have a tourniquet in your first aid kit, make sure that you've done a little research or you've gone through a class, you know how to properly use it, and that as well goes for the type of tourniquet that's used. So that is something to look for, though, certainly when you're looking for first aid kits. Now, a couple things that are missing that I do like to see in a first aid kit, and I'll start with some over-the-counter medications. For example, ibuprofen or an aspirin, maybe even some sort of a throat lozenge or something along those lines. Some of those basic medications that are over the counter, those are missing from this kit. And that's one of those things that maybe you need to put a little package together that has some of your favorites. Maybe there's a certain type of ibuprofen that you prefer, or maybe you can't use ibuprofen. You need to use some other kind of anti-inflammatory. So keep that in mind. Put those prescriptions in here as well. So while you're putting together some of those over-the-counter medicines, which this kit might lack, get some of your prescriptions that are very important to you. Put those in there as well, and put those into whatever kind of pre-built first aid kit that you have. Now, something else that's missing that I've seen in some other kits and I really like is an eye wash. It's just a little a tube of some sort of a liquid, a saline type water normally, some sort of a water, and you would use that to use as an eye wash, but also it works well for a wound care or cleaning, where you can clean out a wound. So that's something that is missing from this kit. Now the survival items, let's talk about those. The pieces in here that I like, first of all, obviously, a flashlight is a good idea. I don't think you can have too many flashlights. I like that this stores the batteries outside of the light. That way it won't accidentally get left on, or there's less chance that it would become corroded. So that's nice that those are stored separately. I always encourage people to store the batteries outside of your flashlight like that, maybe even an extra set of batteries. This has some paracord, which sometimes is something you need. Here's a little razor blade, so that's going to help with certain types of cutting that you might need. An emergency whistle. Now, a safety pins and a little sewing kit. That's certainly going to come in handy for a lot of different opportunities. Now, something that I don't care about, you've heard me talk about this before, is I don't think fire starting is a high priority. So this has a little striker, little fire starter pieces. I don't care about that. I would probably even just take that out of this kit if it was mine or I was packing it. In general, I don't think you need to worry about trying to start fires in your emergency preparedness nowadays. There is a poncho in here, but I'm going to be honest, I hope I would never have to put this poncho on. This is not necessarily high quality. So yeah, it would help you. It would get the job done, and it's probably good that it's in here, but not something that I'm going to be looking for. But these emergency blankets, it's really impressive how much help that they can make. This is one of those kind of mylar blankets that really focuses on trapping your heat around you if you were to wrap yourself in this. This is something, especially, if you've got this in your car and your car breaks down or something and it's cold, this is going to help out a lot. So definitely the emergency blanket and some of these other items are certainly helpful of an idea that would be good for your emergency preparedness. So again, this kit from Life Gear is a first aid kit as well as a survival tactical pack, is that the way that they call it. Generally speaking, I like this size first aid kit. This is certainly good for 2 people. You could probably stretch this out to a family of 4 if you kind of double checked some of the numbers. Again, I think another set of gloves would be helpful if you have 4 people instead of 2 people. But this is kind of the size I think that the average 2 to 4 people should be looking for. There's certainly, if you get something bigger, it's going to have more stuff, and that's going to be helpful in some general terms. But this is really a great size. You could grab it and go if you needed to. Also, if you're sheltering in place, it's going to have the stuff that you're needing. If you get smaller than this, then I think you're beginning to kind of get cut out on some stuff, or your quality of the items are going to get sort of broken down just a little bit overall. Now, I do want to point out that this kit from Life Gear is about $33 is going to be the price on that. It's going to be $32.99 is officially what that price is. So about $33. I think that's a fair price. As I mentioned before, I think all of the Life Gear products are pretty fairly priced as far as the quality of what you're getting and the investments that you're having to put into for whatever that survival item or flashlight is, or in this case a first aid kit overall. So I think I did a pretty good job of covering everything here on the table. As always, I'm interested in hearing your feedback. If you'll go to YouTube and search for Meteorologist John Dawson, you'll be able to find my YouTube channel, and you'll most likely find the review on this pack. And you can leave a comment if you disagree with me on anything, or if you particularly agree with me on anything. And specifically, if I'm forgetting something, that's a great way for you to say, hey, I've learned this. I want you to know about that as well. So if you go to YouTube, you search for Meteorologist John Dawson, and then you can find my channel, my YouTube channel. This review will be on here, but really any of the other hurricane gear tests will be on there. And that's how you're going to find out the rating that I give it, the level on my emergency kit priority scale, what level out of 5. I'm going to make you go to YouTube to find that, or you can watch Fox 26 News and see the official emergency gear test, the shorter version of what we're doing right now, to kind of see that discussion of that as well. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this week's extended version of the emergency gear test. We will have more Forecasting with Friends coming up after this break.
A little change all the time when the weather is fine.
Let's talk about snow, ice, and rain and the next winter storm that's going to be moving across the Lone Star State. There actually are winter storm watches in effect up around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So this is the European computer model outlook taking us into Tuesday night, tonight, as temperatures fall into the 30s. And we start to see some snow developing out to our west. Now, as far as what to expect for your Wednesday, we're probably going to have a pretty chilly day. High temperatures only in the low 40s, maybe middle 40s with some luck, but still above freezing. Now, Dallas will get closer to freezing, and as this winter storm develops further, they're going to have a much better chance of either getting ice or snow, or possibly both. They could get some ice first and then snow. But around here, notice the temperature here, 43, well above freezing. So still definitely cold, very uncomfortable, and a nasty day expected on Thursday night and early Friday, with temperatures in the 30s and even the potential for some heavy rain. But, you know, the magic number is 32, and as long as our surface temperature here is above 32, then we're not going to experience any accumulating ice. Now, you can have, though, some flurries and some sleet pellets mixing in if it's colder above the ground, but it won't stick to the surface. This band of snow could be pretty significant if you have travel plans to go up there to the Dallas-Fort Worth area and you're driving from San Antonio, Austin, or Houston. Just be aware, if you're driving on Thursday or here early on Friday, there's a very high likelihood that there's going to be some ice and snow on the way once you get up from Austin northward or Huntsville northward. Our best chance for seeing anything frozen around here would be either a couple of flurries Wednesday night or Friday morning. That's going to be our best chance. When we take a look at the snowfall forecast here from the European computer model, it's actually showing some hefty amounts here from Dallas over to Texarkana, and of course a big goose egg here because we're just too warm for that. You can compare this here to the GFS, which is the American computer model forecast. You're going to notice that it puts less snow, but also the snow shifted farther to the north, and so less of an accumulation in Dallas. For example, the Euro is showing 7 inches, the GFS is showing about 1.5 inches. So it's a big difference. One of the main threats for our area, guys, is going to be rain. Now keep in mind, yes, it's going to be very cold rain. Temperatures probably in the 30s, but this is heavy enough that we will be looking at least the chance for seeing some isolated areas of flooding, and this is the excessive rainfall outlook from NOAA's Weather Prediction Center, where we could see some areas of some isolated street flooding. So the bottom line is the main threat for us is actually going to be thunderstorms and rain, but if you have any travel plans from Huntsville northward, Austin northward, there will be a chance for ice.